Hey everybody, I am Haley Gray and I am the group owner here in the Women's Entrepreneur Network. And I have the first of my two guests tonight. This is Patty Luu with Driven to Peak Consulting. And Patty, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Hi, everyone. Hope everyone had a great day. As a performance enhancement consultant / coach, I help high school and young adult athletes overcome the mental blocks that prevent them from improving their performance and achieving their goals. I take on younger athletes on a case-by-case basis. My educational background is in performance and sports psychology.
Cool. Very cool. So how do you typically find clients for your business?
Lately, it's been through speed networking. That's how I got my first couple of clients, but that's not the norm. Mostly it's through Facebook groups, and with Facebook groups, I tend to meet people who refer people to me.
Cool. Yeah. And, what made you decide to do this business? Because I think it's a really interesting business, but you have kind of a fascinating story.
Yes, you've heard it a million times. My first exposure was watching Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls play the Utah Jazz. And at that time, I didn't realize it was his second to last season with the Chicago Bulls. And I got to see him win his fifth and sixth championships. And I've been in love with sports ever since. I knew that from that moment on, I wanted a career somehow related to sports. Fast forward to my teenage years, I saw Tiger Woods play golf, and that made me want to try the game. While trying the game meant taking golf lessons. While taking golf lessons, I became aware of athletes' wants, needs, frustrations, and fears. I experienced them all. And luckily, I had a golf teacher who provided me that safe and non-judgmental environment to honestly discuss my struggles. Not all traditional sports coaches do that. Him doing what I currently do at a surface level really helped me. And with my educational background, I go way more in depth, and I use many more techniques. And I believe that I can really help transform athletes.
Cool. So, what kind of an education did that whole experience lead you to pursue? Because I know you've gone like down the rabbit hole of like some serious education with your background.
Yes. I as an undergrad, I majored in psychology. After undergrad, I knew I wanted a career related to sports, and since I was majoring in psychology, I decided to pursue my master's related to performance in sports psychology.
Cool. And what were the like key takeaways that you took for your from your master's in sports psychology? Like what did you learn?
That even if they hire someone like me, that they wouldn't see instantaneous results. A big misconception in the field is if they hire me, that I have a magic wand and the next day they would automatically see results. It doesn't happen that way. Just like learning to walk and run, you have to consistently practice it, and it has to become part of your daily routine in order to develop proficiency.
Right. And I've heard an ad recently that is, hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard.
Yes, I definitely believe in that. Yes.
And I've seen that. I mean, my younger daughter is a, high performance athlete. And, I have definitely seen the kids who work the hardest and the most diligently, even if they're not the most talented overall, end up coming out ahead because they keep practicing.
Yes, they stay persistent. They didn't let other opinions that they weren't good enough get in the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Hey, Tara, good to see you. So, what do you think are the biggest challenges that are affecting athletes right now with COVID?
Keeping them involved in sports, keeping the right intensity. I mean, coaches will continue to hold practice based on what I've been told. Coaches, even without competitive sports, will continue to hold practices. They will continue to have strength and conditioning workouts. Basically, they will continue to have those practice and training sessions just without the competitive games. However, the biggest challenge that they face is probably how am I going to get better? Well, they never had a long off season before prior to the pandemic hitting. It was like the pandemic gave them extra time off from the sport that they never got because of AAU basketball and playing for their school team. Now that the pandemic hit, it kind of really forced them to have an off season. However, not all coaches made workouts and practices mandatory, even on platforms such as Zoom. And as a result, some have really slack. I mean, they're like, tomorrow I'll resume my practice and training schedule, but tomorrow never comes from them.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, I've seen that with my youngest, well, with my sons both, because neither one of them is a particularly diligent athlete to start with. And the fact that, they haven't been able to practice at school has meant that they're, catch as catch can, and they're practicing whenever they feel like it. So they may not go out and run every day.
Yes, and it's also they practice whatever they want. They practice what they like rather than what they dislike and their weaknesses. And the only way that they're going to get better is if they work on their weaknesses and if they structure their practice. Basically, the athletes that I worked with recently, they haven't had their practices structured. Like they would go either do the same thing over again, or they would just practice whatever they want, which is what they like and their strong things, not their weaknesses, so that they can improve on their skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I think that that's just a really, important concept for, a lot of athletes. And it's really hard to, when they're younger and they're youth and they're middle school and high school, and they don't know what to do, what not to do, and how to avoid injury too.
Yes, some coaches, I heard from a physical therapist that some coaches want to hit it really hard, like right when they resume practices, and that puts them at a huge risk for injury after having such a long layoff.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So, how do you recommend that athletes avoid injury?
Avoid injury, basically a smart playing and training schedule to make sure that they incorporate rest as part of their daily schedule. I know under normal circumstances with the hectic school and game schedule that it's almost impossible to do on the weekdays, but make sure to have like mandatory me time during the weekends.
Yeah, totally. And I think that it's important to really focus on, a smart return to play and a smart, careful return to play, because so many of these kids haven't been doing anything since March?
Yes, yes.
And hey, Jenny, good to see you. And yeah, transitioning back slowly is critical after a lot of time off. So, part of the point here with the hot seat is to share your business with people. But the other point here is to see how we can help you in your business. And
Jenny's getting on me.
I know she is, right? So what is one thing that we can help you tonight with in your business?
I would say launching my group coaching.
Okay.
Like, yes, I want to start doing this before 2021 hits. And just getting enough athletes for the group coaching. I think starting off with 2 or 3 just to beta test it so that I can weed out what doesn't work. Maybe
Right.
what's the best way of going about it?
Right. So how are you getting group coaching clients now, or single coaching clients now?
I got my first 2 through referrals. It was through speed networking.
Through speed networking. Yep.
Yes.
And where were you doing the speed networking?
Oh, in Angela Gardner's coffee group.
The 100 Coffees group?
Yes.
That's a pretty awesome group. So, you know, typically what you're going to see once you start doing those group coaching programs, and Lisa Hubbard has a great question. Are you listed on Side Coach?
I never heard of it. So I never heard of it.
Okay, that's something to write down for sure. You know, is a lot of times you're going to be doing the group coaching programs because they're less expensive than one-on-one, or, you know, people get a benefit from being in that group coaching program. And, you know, a lot of your first 50 clients are going to come from the first 50 are going to come from that speed networking routine that you've been doing. So, you know, one of the things that I encourage people is if you find something that is generating clients, networking is one of them. If that is generating clients with you, double down and do more of that.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I know it sounds like incredibly simplistic. You know, I could sit here and say, yeah, you need a better website and a better funnel, and you need to stand on your head and click your heels. The sales process is going to look almost exactly the same for your group coaching clients as it is for your one-on-one clients.
Okay.
So that's kind of the good news, right? Because you already know what you're doing there.
Yes.
Do you know when you want to start your first group coaching program?
Maybe as soon as I get enough athletes. I mean, it could happen as soon as next week. I've been trying to get the other 2 athletes to meet. It's just figuring out time for people to meet has been the toughest. It seems like everyone's super busy.
Yep. Well, you know, it is kind of crazy back to school schedules right now, and people are trying to figure out what that means.
And the thing of it is, I forgot that school's already in session because I've gone to school all my life after Labor Day. So.
Yeah, well, it depends on the part of the country, right?
Yes.
Some parts of the U.S. are already back in school. The Southeast is already back in school, but the Northeast definitely goes back later. So it just depends on where you are as to when school starts. But you know, if you were looking for 10 student athletes to get into your group coaching programs, what would they look like? Who would they be?
I would say they're either about to start high school or close to that, a year or 2 from starting high school.
Yeah.
Or already in high school. Those would be 10 athletes.
Right. Yeah. And Lisa has a good point. You know, keep your mindset that they need you, because they do need you right now more than ever. And they will make time for what they prioritize.
Yes, I had I had a coffee chat with someone, and they told me that the school canceled the sports program. They probably won't need you. And I'm like, now is the perfect time because they never have time to incorporate something new, such as mental skills training, aka sports psychology training, because of the long sports season. And I'm like, just because the fall season is canceled, it doesn't mean that athletes stop trying to improve, that they stop working on their game.
Well, and certainly kids that are in 7th, 8th, 9th grade at this point are starting to think about what sports they're maybe going to do in high school and beyond, and whether that's even going to be a possibility. So even though, you know, school may not be open, or if school is open, maybe they don't have sports, it just depends, right? A lot of these kids are still going to keep training because they know that it could potentially affect college scholarships. And I mean, I think that especially now, because people know that it can affect college scholarships, parents are going to be more likely to invest in their children's futures, you know, because they've typically done, you know, a lot of traveling, you know, and a lot of effort and a lot of training to get their kids to this point.
Yes, and even if the school canceled the sports program for the year, AAU and other travel ball organizations are still going.
Right, exactly. So what specific sports do you want to work with?
I don't have enough experience yet to say I don't want to work with this sports or that sports. So far, the athletes that I have worked with so far have been in basketball and football. However, I would love to work with tennis players and golfers as well. I'm open to working with athletes of any sports, but so far I've worked with basketball and football. And it's just they've come up. Like I've never like
Right.
weed out ahead of time. I wouldn't work with this one or I would work with this.
Right. Well, and I think that there are certain sports that have more scholarship money attached to them necessarily for college. So parents are more interested in investing up front, because of that possibility for, getting their kids scholarships in college. And I mean, and now is a really great time. I mean, just from a sales perspective, if kids are sitting on the sidelines right now, this is a great opportunity to get ahead.
Yes, and I will get them ahead. They will have the edge of using mental skills over their competitors who don't use mental skills training. They will be able to come through in the clutch and have less performance anxiety, have a routine established, because you'll be surprised at the number of athletes who don't have a routine established. And making practice more game realistic.
Absolutely. And I think that that is, a really important, thing is that, keeping the practice routines going, even while we're on COVID, lockdown is going to be important because, just because you missed a season now in 8th grade or 9th grade doesn't mean that you're going to be willing to lose that opportunity at a scholarship for college. And, and I would say almost like the savvy parent, for me, is going to say, how can you, get in front of people and say, hey, what are you doing now to get your kid ahead while we're locked down on COVID? And Lisa asks the question, are you networking in the coaches groups?
No, I haven't. It's interesting. I've joined a couple of those groups, and just to find out that the person who owns the group has the same educational background as I do. I
Right.
didn't, yes, I didn't know that before joining the group.
Well, Women's Entrepreneur Network has about 40,000 other marketers in it. I mean, it's not exactly true, but I mean,
Yeah.
I get plenty of clients out of Women's Entrepreneur Network that want websites or social media or ads. I mean, so just because somebody is the group owner doesn't mean that they're going to get or be a fit necessarily for every single person in the group.
Okay, so I should try sharing value in those groups. Okay.
I would try sharing value in those groups, and I would work on connecting with people because, as you've probably learned, a lot of the connections actually happen, in the sidelines, in the private messaging, in the conversations, all of those.
Yes, and when you least expect it, you get a paying client out of it.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
When you started doing that networking and you started posting for people and you started offering those, trial sessions, I think you saw, a huge uptick. And as, Lisa says, you're not in the group looking for clients, you're making connections with people.
Oh, okay.
And the goal here is never, I'm fishing directly for clients. The goal is usually I'm trying to see who else I can meet and who else I can connect with, who might be able to connect me with more people.
Yes. Yes, true.
So my goal is rarely, hey, Patty, do you want to buy a website?
I would run.
Right, exactly. If you looked at me and said, hey, Leaps, do you need some sports psychology coaching? I'd run, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, we've had those conversations, but if you're like, hey, I need to meet some people, I'm like, oh, here, let me introduce you to some people. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's a different game when you're trying to network with people and trying to connect with people. And there is an art to networking as well, where you're really literally trying to meet and get to know people in the community around you and understand, who has kids that are athletes or who might know somebody who has kids who are athletes.
Yes, that's a question I always ask during the coffee chats, during the speed networking. Yes, those are two questions I always ask.
And what do you get for answers for those?
Oh, Dr. Flo is on. Hi. Most of the time, every once in a while, they'll know. It's not always a yes, I know. Some don't, but they might be able to connect me with some who do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that's the point here. I mean, and this is a valuable lesson for anybody who's watching, when we talk about networking, it's not that every single person you talk to is going to be able to refer you to somebody.
Yes.
Um, it's that if you talk to 5 people and you get 2 of them to refer you to somebody, now you're starting to make traction. Because if you can speed network and you talk to 10 people and 2 of them make referrals to you, well, then, you're going to start seeing that traction happen, or 5 of them can make referrals because you're able to describe exactly who it is that you're looking for. Like I'll tell people, I'm looking for nonprofits and I'm looking for attorneys, and they'll be like, oh, I know who to help. I know exactly who you need to help.
Yes, I know an attorney.
There you go, right? And I'm looking for attorneys. I'm looking for attorneys who need marketing help. So that's kind of a brilliant thing where you can say, hey, I am looking for this person. And you're like, oh, I know that person. Here, let me introduce you to 20 of them, right?
Yes.
I mean, and you and I had this conversation of, hey, I'm looking to do this.
Yes. Yes.
One fateful night, right? And you said, hey, Haley, I'm looking to,
This was like 2 months ago.
right, 2 months ago, what did you ask me for?
To do a Facebook Live in the group so I can get some beta testers.
Right. And then what did we do also?
Yes, we did that, and then you put up a post, and then there was, because so many people, there were a lot of responses.
So I put up a post and said, hey, my friend Patty is looking for some beta testers. And you got what, 50 responses? Not exactly, but a significant number of responses of, hey, and I know somebody else who was happy to be a beta tester. And I know somebody else who's happy to be a beta tester, right? Because I'm a mom who has kids, who knows other moms who have kids. And a lot of them are actually, none of my kids are your ideal clients, but gosh darn golly, a lot of their kids are.
Yes. Yes, and some I'm following up on because they've been so busy that they texted me out of the blue and be like, "Oh, sorry, I haven't responded in so long. I've just been so busy since COVID."
Yeah, exactly. And then you keep following up with people once you get leads, and it goes from there, right? It's a snowball. It's this little teeny tiny snowball. So right now you've got a few clients, which is really cool. And if you guys saw where Patty was a few months ago, she would have been terrified to have gotten on here with me doing a Facebook Live. And she actually approached me to do this Facebook Live and said, hey, I want to be one of your victims. And, in that getting out there, and you start with this teeny tiny little bitty snowball and you start rolling it, right?
Yes.
And then you start talking to people and telling them what it is that you do and who it is that you help. And then suddenly, next thing you know, you got a really big snowball.
Would searching in homeschool groups work? I mean,
yeah, why not?
okay.
I mean, think about it. A lot of homeschool kids either do travel sports, or a lot of them do they do all kinds of stuff where they're practicing with their local public school or something. And a lot of homeschool parents make massive investments in their kids' educations.
Oh,
they're choosing homeschool as a way of life and a way of education for their kids. I mean, the curriculum alone for homeschooling for many families is, $800 or $900 for the year, plus books, plus enrichment materials, plus tutors. If you're paying for tutors, it's into the thousands of dollars. So I would never, ever assume that somebody who's homeschooling has no money.
Oh, okay. Okay.
In fact, many of the people who I know who homeschool successfully are people who have master's degrees and higher, who are teaching their kids and they're homeschooling because they feel that they can do a better job or that it's a better fit for their family, not because it's less expensive.
Oh, okay. I see. Wow.
Yeah. And Lisa has a good point. And many homeschool kids are eligible for public school teams and need to prepare. They need to be ready to try out for public school teams. And it means that they're competing with those public school teams. And a lot of times, unless you already know the coach, you're at a little bit of a disadvantage. So you actually have to be a better player and you have to have better psychology. And people are likely to make that investment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're willing to make those investments in themselves and, in their children. Don't make the assumption that just because somebody is homeschooling that they are, not able or willing to make those investments in their children. Right now with a lot of families doing virtual schooling, those situations are being tipped as well too. People are recognizing the fact that they may end up having to pay for tutors and coaches and other things that they weren't doing before.
And technology devices.
All kinds of things. I mean, I've been into some of the parents groups in my area because, as you know, my son switched schools in February of last year. And we had to figure out where he was going to go to school this next year. And with COVID, it was a very difficult decision. And it ultimately ended up that my son is at a military boarding school in Virginia. But we definitely flirted with and had Wake County Public Schools as part of our backup option. And we knew and we understood that if he stayed in Wake County and did our local public school option, we were going to be on the hook for many thousands of dollars in math tutoring.
Oh.
And just that subject alone. And, figured that we would probably end up exceeding the cost of a private school education in tutoring just to keep him at grade level. So he wouldn't fall behind.
Wow.
Yeah. So don't assume that people are unwilling to spend money because that's not the case.
Wow. Well, you just clarified something to me today with homeschool being so expensive. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's not free.
Wow. Yes.
And a lot of those parents are paying for private music lessons for their kids, and they're doing a lot of things for their kids.
Yes, I've heard the private music lessons. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Private music lessons, but they're doing private sports training. So private, performance training is not a reach at all.
That's very great to know.
Yeah. Cool stuff. Thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Thanks for allowing me to do this.
This is awesome. I am so thrilled and excited that you joined me tonight. We're going to switch over to our next guest, Sarah Sewell, and I'm going to pop her up and then pop you down. So we'll say bye, Patty, and hello, Sarah, and we will unmute you. Can you unmute yourself, Sarah?
Yep, I'm good.
There we go. Thank you. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am great.
Thank you for joining me tonight. This is a lot of fun.
Yes, I see you live all the time at night. I always go live, but I go live during the day, and I'm always kind of nervous about going live at night, I guess, because of lighting and kids. And this is kind of cool because I see you live all the time. And so now
I'm live all the time at night. Yeah. Do you know why I do lives at night?
Why?
So, interesting story. I have 4 kids, and now they range in age from 13 to 22. And when I first started doing lives about 4 years ago, 10 p.m. was when my kids were mostly in bed.
Yeah.
I would work all day. I would do the mommy detail. I would do taxi cab driving. I would do the run around, the mommy Uber routine, everything. And then I would come home and everybody would be in bed and I would do my Facebook Lives at that point.
Yes. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Luckily, I retired my husband, so when I'm live, he's just he's on silent duty. Everybody be quiet.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So hello in India and hello, Patty. Yeah, there's some great, great, great tips here that people are sharing too. So tell me a little bit about your business.
Well, what I do is I am a strategist or a coach for business owners, small business owners, but specifically those who craft, makers, designers, creatives. If you think people that sell on Etsy, handmade at Amazon, places like that, that's who I help.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what is, how do you find clients?
Well, it's funny how it all started. I started in Facebook groups. I was a top selling seller on Etsy for about 5 years. And I kind of transitioned from having an Etsy shop to teaching others. And I kind of started like most people do, helping out locally, friends and family. I started going into Facebook groups, and there's a lot of great Etsy groups out there. And I would just start helping people. I'd see them ask questions, and I would kind of, just add value and content. But I found that a lot of the groups got really mean.
Right.
Right. There's a lot of bullying out there. And I decided, and I thought it was awful that people can get like that. They get behind a keyboard and they can just go,
They go rogue for sure.
Yeah. So I decided to start my own group where I would have rules like you can't be mean to people. You can't bully people. This is about lifting others up, encouraging others, supporting others. And so I started a group called the Joyful Entrepreneur back in 2015, just for makers and creatives. And I was giving advice in there and then selling my coaching services on the side. And that grew to now we're at like 60,000 members, similar to where you are with your Women's Entrepreneur Network. We renamed that, you know how important branding is. And the Joyful Entrepreneur was attracting all kinds of entrepreneurs, not just makers. So we rebranded to Etsy sellers, makers, and more. And then I started my Flourish coaching community because I kind of maxed myself out with kind of like capped out how many clients I could take because we only have so many hours in the day, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So I started doing a group coaching where I could go live once a week. I have a whole team of advisors that come into my group, and they offer training from web design to social media marketing to copywriting and product photography. And it's just amazing. And so that's what I do for the most part right now, is just kind of offer strategy in my group.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you'll give me your link, you can either drop it here in the comments to in the private chat and I can share it, or you can do it over on Facebook and I'll be happy to share it into the various groups. So what is one thing that we can help you with tonight?
Oh my gosh. I think that the constant problem maybe that I have in growing my business is, have you ever watched Moana?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's this part, she's always trying to get out past the breaker waves that come into her beach, and because she wants to go out and explore. And I kind of feel like I'm this big fish in a small pond, among my Facebook groups, and I have about 15 of them. Kind of a big deal. I have a lot of notoriety and I get clients very easily. My programs book up pretty fast. But I want to grow my membership. We have currently about 1,500 paying members in our Flourish community. And I would love to see that at like 3, 4, 5, even more. And it's like trying to get past our Facebook groups, out of that, kind of circle, if you will, to get like mainstream recognition or mainstream Google searches, for people to find us when people are looking for help selling on Etsy or similar. How can they find me? And I don't have a blog. I know that's important when it comes to having a website. I have a Kajabi site, which is a membership site. I'm not sure how well that can be optimized. So, I have a little bit of I feel like I'm just kind of stuck where I do really great in my space, but trying to get out of that I'm struggling a little bit.
Right. So Kajabi is so with SEO. I mean, it's not great. It's not horrible. It has limited SEO capabilities. So you're going to want to make sure that you've done things like meta tags on your website. If you haven't done those, you need to do them. The front page of your website should have at least 700 words on it, maybe more.
Okay.
And this is true across the board. This is not just Kajabi sites. This is every website. And, and this is part of what we do with Fiercely Marketing is, figuring out where people are struggling. And then there's little crazy touches that you'll want to make sure that you're doing and detail touches. So when you add an image to your website, you have the opportunity to add alt tags to that website and to those images. Did you know that actually impacts your SEO?
I did. Yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's those crazy little things where, making sure that all of your images have alt tags on them in good descriptions can really improve your SEO. And then things like Google reviews and Facebook reviews.
I don't think I have Google reviews at all. I don't think I don't even know how to get that set up. I know we have Facebook reviews, but the Facebook reviews are attached to our page, not our groups.
Yeah.
So it's really funny because groups wise, we have a few 100,000 members in all of our groups, right?
Right.
On our page, we may have 5,000 likes and then our website. So it's like trying to combine them all to where they all kind of speak to each other and reference each other.
You probably are going to need to have a Google My Business account.
Okay.
A Google My Business listing. And you can actually, if you're working from home, which I suspect you are like I am, you can actually hide your home address.
Oh, that's great.
So you don't have to display your address. So you have that option to not display your address as part of your Google My Business listing. And then you can ask people to leave you reviews on Google My Business as well, because it turns out that Google plays well with Google products. Now they want to see that you have Facebook and that you're posting regularly on Facebook and that the pieces and the parts match up.
Right.
And they also want to see that you have reviews on multiple platforms. That's one of the things that Google searches on and, indexes on as far as SEO goes. So when we start talking about, how do you get seen, this is like one of the basic foundational things for me is always that Google My Business listing. Do you have an active Google My Business listing and are you managing it? And are you linking it back to that Kajabi site?
Wow. No, I didn't know that at all. I'm not doing any of that.
And it'll take you 15 minutes to set it up.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you can post on it just like you do any social media platform. So some social media schedulers like Social Pilot will actually allow you to schedule posts to your Google My Business listings.
Okay, cool.
Easy and free, right?
Yeah.
How are people finding and getting into your groups at this point?
So the way I have it set up, you're familiar with what a funnel is, I'm assuming. So the free group, the original group, the original group that I told you I set up, the Joyful Entrepreneur, which is now Etsy Sellers, Makers, and More. That is what we are using for our funnel. So it's a free group. Anybody can join. And in fact, if you on Facebook use the search function to look for an Etsy group, we come up like the first group. So we're getting, probably 50 people a day trying to join our group, which is great. These are all people, and we use the questions that say, do you have an Etsy shop? What do you make? So that we can filter through those people joining. So I have
binary traders.
Yeah, right. So I have this group full of essentially hot leads, right? Like, people that are really, they're there to learn how to grow their business on Etsy and similar platforms. And so then I can promote myself, my coaching, my program. I have Flourish members that regularly post in there that are like, hey, this is like an amazing community. Come join us. And that works. And that's great. And that's how I've kept my membership growing for 5 years. But I'm just like, there's so much potential of me reaching makers out there that aren't in my Etsy Sellers, Makers, and More group. And that's where I need to grow.
And that may also boil down to doing Google ads, believe it or not. not necessarily to get people straight into your funnel, although that may be part of it. But the cool thing with Google is that you can do pay-per-click, right? So people are searching on particular terms. And I'm going to guess that, without talking to my Google Ads experts on my team, that you actually have cases where people are searching a lot on Google for how to build my Etsy store, how to do this on my Etsy store, etc. Mm-hmm. And that's an excellent opportunity to suck them right into your funnel.
Yes. Yeah. I've always been afraid of, my team shouldn't be listening to me right now. They're going to be like, if you're scared, just do it. But because that's always what I tell them. But I've always been cautious of Google Ads because you hear these, horror stories where it costs thousands of dollars, and that's not really in my budget. I have a budget and I have advertising, but I've had such organic growth that I've always been afraid to invest that kind of money in kind of, ads. But I could be way off. This is, of course, rumors. I don't really know what it costs. I've never attempted to try to figure it out,
Right. Well, and that goes back to doing a mathematical calculation. How much is a client worth to you? Mm-hmm. What is their lifetime value to you? So how much are you willing to invest in obtaining a client? Like if the lifetime value to you of a client is, $5,000, it's a very different mathematical equation than one is worth 50 or 500.
Right.
So your willingness to invest is going to be very different because you need to make sure that you're profitable along the way. So it starts to become that type of conversation as far as like doing Google Ads. But there's also things like Pinterest that can drive a ton of traffic to your group, that can drive a ton of traffic into your funnel at a relatively low cost. Now, there's a trade-off, right? If you're doing paid ads, you're driving volumes of traffic using paid traffic.
Right.
If you're using Pinterest and you're not doing paid Pinterest pins, then you're relying on organic, but you're also putting the time, effort, and energy and manpower into doing those pins.
Right. So
it's a trade-off of how do you choose to make the investment in your team, in your business.
Yeah, you're right. And isn't that always,
right.
Time is money. So you do have that. I would rather spend my time being with my people. I'd rather be able to be in the group, shoulder to shoulder, figuring out, how to help them rather than spend my time scheduling, obviously pins, posts, things like that.
Right. And that may be, one of those things as you grow your business that you're like, okay, maybe I'll actually go look at Google Ads. And there's some easy setups for Google Ads that you can do now. And then, once you get to the point where you're like, oh, okay, I kind of understand how this stuff works, or if you're like, I just don't want to do that. You can hire somebody to do Google Ads for a relatively reasonable cost.
Yeah.
And, once you've determined, like what you're willing to invest per client, then you can just turn that out and say, hey, just go get me clients.
Yeah. That's nice, right?
And drive them into the funnel.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't work well for straight coaching clients for the most part, but you've got a very specific niche, which is how to build my Etsy store.
Yeah. I prefer, I do and offer my coaching. And like I said, it's full, but my goal, and sorry if you hear snoring, my dog is over here like sawing logs. I don't know.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm sorry.
Mine was over here
picking that up
a few minutes ago.
But my dream of my business is really my membership. Like I love my Flourish community. Like it's so important to me. And it's a low cost for my members. So you might pay $145 an hour to work with me a one-on-one, but you can join Flourish for $14.95. So it's like it's cheap. It's more affordable for my customer. They get access to me and all of my team. Plus they have this great community. So to me, that's where I would like the advertising to push it through, not necessarily get me more coaching clients, but more build my membership. grow
Absolutely.
that part of it.
Well, and some of that may be using and leveraging, a little bit of Google, a little bit of Pinterest, a little bit of SEO. I'd be willing to almost bet you money on the Google My Business thing, driving people into your group.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's such an easy, low-hanging piece of fruit that, you don't have to do anything like wild and crazy for.
Yeah. I do marketing and social media for a living, and I never even thought about that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You're brilliant, Haley.
Thank you. We try. It's an ecosystem. I mean, one of the things that I like to harp on a lot of times with people, and forgive me while I get on my horse here, is that it's all an ecosystem. The whole internet is interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And we can drive traffic from LinkedIn to Facebook to LinkedIn, Twitter, and we forget that so many times.
Yeah.
And our website doesn't just exist on an island, and Facebook ads aren't just something that you do over here, hoping that it connects to here, because it all needs to connect together and work together in order to get clients, in order to provide that experience for people.
Yeah.
And that to me is where the magic really happens.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense. I mean, it is, and it really is all interconnected, and then yet you still think of it separately, because you think, well, this is this separate platform and this is this separate platform. But they are all connected, and I can easily see how that would be possible, using one to drive another,
Mm-hmm. And Twitter is really great at driving traffic. Twitter and Pinterest, believe it or not, will drive a lot of traffic to your website.
Yeah, we teach about Pinterest a lot because makers' products do really well on Pinterest. We don't teach a lot about Twitter. I don't know a lot about Twitter myself. I always think of it as a place to get news. But that's definitely a weakness that I have that I could work on growing as well.
Well, and teaching people how to do Pinterest for their businesses, wouldn't that be cool if you also...
Yeah. What's funny is I have probably, I think I'm up 4 million monthly viewers on Pinterest, something around that. But I use my Pinterest fully for promoting my members' products. So like we have a huge holiday gift guide every year, and we drive a ton of traffic. So my Pinterest is advocating and promoting for all Flourish members' products. It's really not talking about my business at all. See, and that's the thing too, Haley, is I have two sides to my business. And I'm sure you've seen that. I have the artist and indie side, the Make It Flourish side, where one half of my business is my advocacy and promoting maker products, the handmade industry. And then the other side is teaching those makers how to go mainstream, right? So trying to find that balance of, I have no problem. I think this is a problem for everyone, isn't it? Selling themselves isn't as easy as selling other people's stuff, right? So like for me, I'm able to sell the crap out of my members' items and shops and talk about how amazing they are, but I don't talk about myself enough, So I probably need to do a little bit more of that.
That sounds like,
I think you do that a lot too.
I do the same thing. It's the exact same weakness I have. I enjoy really promoting other people, like I'm promoting you.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, when you build these massive communities, because it's not all about me. And I understand that it's not about me. It's about the members.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm right there with you.
It's a real challenge. I mean, absolutely a huge challenge. Yeah. And those same consumers dream of being able to do it for themselves. Absolutely. Right.
Absolutely.
It's a huge challenge. I mean, there's no one perfect solution here to how this all works.
It's funny. It's all about sales. It's all about, giving value. And I see communities like yours and communities like mine where we really, we're passionate. We're up at 10:30 at night talking to people and sharing knowledge And you see these fly-by-night companies that they come in and they put a lot of money in advertising, and they're selling cheap stuff, or they're selling, ebooks, and not that there's anything wrong with ebooks, but I mean, that's not the value that your community or my community may give. And it's like, how do we get over that hump of where people can really see the value that we give them?
Right. You see the emperor's clothing, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, that to me was definitely one of the challenges, is showing people the value and the difference in, hey, you need to build this, I've got this formula for funnels, 1, 2, 3, or this formula to grow a Facebook group, 1, 2, 3. And, it is a challenge when you're really not trying to do that 1, 2, 3 process, because you understand that business is rarely that click, 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 click.
Exactly. Yes. And everyone's different, and everyone's story is different, and everyone where they're at in their journey is different.
Mm-hmm. And I like Lisa's idea of 5 to 10 small ticket how-tos selling there for under $20 and rotating would connect you to new people.
Yes. It's funny, Lisa, because I thought about doing little TikToks, with TikTok being all, a lot of my members, they're getting on TikTok and they're doing great. And I don't see a lot of service providers on there. And I realize the demographic's a little younger. But what a great opportunity for service providers to get on there and do little, quick how-tos or tips and tricks. I thought that might be a good way. I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with TikTok in of itself, but
in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do think that, small tickets, micro offers are always a good way to get people into the funnel, to get them into the membership group.
Yes. Yeah. And how would we do that? Through Facebook ads?
You can do it through Facebook ads, or you can do it when people join your group. I'm not sure what your onboarding process is when people join your group.
Right.
And
go TikTok, go all in with reels.
So it depends on like what your onboarding process is for people into your group as to how you decide to make offers and give them value,
So we have that capability. We have so much capability with Kajabi. I don't know if you're familiar with the back end of Kajabi, but we don't do anything with it. We basically have a landing page. They join the membership. They get this welcome letter. It explains all our groups. It explains what everything's for, how the program works, because it's pretty involved. They have links for everything. And then that's it. They go right into the Facebook groups. We really don't have any other offers connected or hooked up to that, right now.
Right. And that's a lot of opportunity right there.
Right.
When people join your free group, how do you get them onto your email list?
So you're going to yell at me. I have an email list of about 4,000. I don't use it all. I do zero email marketing. I am not a big fan of email myself. I think there's a lot of opportunity with text message marketing. I do have like a Telegram account that I talk to my people with, but I collect emails. I have it on the website, and I was collecting it on the questions, but I changed that a couple of months ago. But right now, I really don't have any kind of an email marketing thing going. So
one simple thing that I do that you guys that have been in the group a little longer haven't quite seen, I've actually put together a nurture sequence. So when I request somebody's email when they join, I use Group Convert. It drops them into a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet uses Zapier to drop them into my email system, which is Entreport. I could have just as easily used Kajabi because a lot of my clients use Kajabi. And they get a 5-part nurture sequence, which introduces them to the group and the offers in the group and some of the things that are unique about this group.
Do you offer services like that, or do you know somebody who offers service? That I don't want to do that. Like I want to do
copywriting. We build funnels. We build nurture sequences. We do all that.
That's amazing. I mean, we've talked before about how we should meet up anyway, because you're local to me, right?
Yes, I am. I live probably 15 minutes from you.
That's amazing. We need to meet up. It would be so much fun. Candy is
I'm in Cary.
I'm in Apex. And I'm kind of close to Cary in Apex. Well, yeah.
Yeah, if I told you where I live, you'd be like, oh, I know exactly where you live.
Yes. Well, my husband went there to pick up cinnamon rolls. So
yeah, I mean, So you know exactly where I live.
The best
just as a
cinnamon rolls
funny
ever, by
story,
the way.
Sarah sends her poor husband over to my house in the middle of the night one night and says, "You need to go get cinnamon rolls." And her poor husband rings the doorbell and he goes, "I'm not really sure why I'm here." And my son is like, "Okay." And he's like, "But I think there's something involving cinnamon rolls."
Yeah.
And my son just busted out laughing because they're used to this whole brigade that's been happening, because we've done 4,000 cinnamon rolls and counting since this whole COVID-19 crisis happened.
Best cinnamon rolls ever.
And so my son looks at him and he goes, 1 or 2? And he goes, and so we're like, okay, the answer is 2 here. And I walk out and handed him 2 pans of cinnamon rolls. And he looks at me, he's like,
yeah.
Right.
It was funny. I don't know. I didn't know what to do. You just said, come pick him up on the porch. And I was like, all right, babe, go get him.
He had no idea why he was at my house at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday night.
Oh man. Awesome. Yeah, let's definitely connect. You know, I mean, I
feel like I had totally pranked your poor husband.
Yeah. He had a good time. He said everybody was laughing, you know. He thought it was hilarious.
Good.
And apparently he wasn't the only one. He said there were other husbands.
There were lots of other husbands that were doing this. And every single one of them was baffled that night.
Oh my goodness.
Awesome. It was the night where all the wives pranked their, I guess it was like a, "Hey honey, go get cinnamon rolls." And they're like, "Why am I going to this strange house in this neighborhood at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday night to get cinnamon rolls?"
Oh, it was fantastic. It was amazing.
It was awesome. It was so much fun.
Well, we need to hook up. It would be so great. I would love to. I need you. I need your help. I do. You know, I'm really good at selling, you know, and talking to people and helping others. The back end data and spreadsheets, like spreadsheets give me panic attacks, like for real. I just don't do any of that stuff. And it's like, in spite of myself, you know, I've been able to grow successfully, but how much more could I grow if I did some of these things? And I know, and I just have been procrastinating and putting it off.
Yeah. Well, and I've done it too. I mean, I will tell you, I blew up my email list and then I didn't collect emails for a very long time. And then I finally slapped myself upside the head. I'm like, you know, I need to at least collect email addresses for people who join the group, if nothing else, to help them navigate the group better.
Yeah, I get your emails.
So, you know, but it took me a long time to decide to do that, for sure, because, you know, it was definitely a point of, you know, well, nobody reads emails. Oh, wait a minute. I got 5 responses today from people.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. That's 5 people I would not have responses.
I mean, I've added 4,000 people since December, like more than 4,000. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The power of Facebook groups too is just,
well,
we have all these people that we can collect data from.
Well, it's tens of thousands of dollars a year that we're leaving on the table with our businesses, not having some of these simple processes in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. I posted your link here in the group.
Great.
And on the live. So thank you for joining me tonight. This has been amazing. If somebody would like to book a consultation with me and just talk to me, I'm not going to try to sell you because I don't do that. There is my link. I would love to chat with y'all and, you know, see how I can be of assistance. You know, this is about helping people and about making the world a bit of a better place.
Yes, girl.
That's what we do. Make the world a better place. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Haley. It's been so awesome.
Thank you, Sarah. This is awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes,
I appreciate it.